first of all, thank you everyone for coming today. So yeah, we'd both like to say just thank you for coming. Obviously, we've seen many of you before, and it's great to see so many familiar faces. So thank you for coming. And also, we'll just introduce our two children, Grace and Isaac. Grace is 10, Isaac's 8. So they're our special guests. They've asked us not to get them up the front, so sinking in their chairs. Right, so we'll get started with what we're talking about. Okay. Right, this is just saying this is our new symbol for Sachibondu Christian development. So on the top of letters and all the rest of it, this is you may see this symbol from time to time, but so we just thought we'd put it up there so you can see what it is. So yeah, sorry, it's the NGO symbol. Right. Okay, we're moving on. This is the next slide. So people often say, where are you? Well, Zambia, as many of you know, is right in the central of southern Africa. It's landlocked by 7 countries. Sachibondu is right where the blue arrow is, just in the northwest there. And it's right in between the Congo and Angola. Just to give you a few other landmarks for the country, as you see that the blue river just to the left is the Zambezi River, so the source is actually very close to Sachibondu, and that obviously travels down to the Victoria Falls, down by Livingston down there, so just to give you a couple of landmarks that you may have heard of. As you can see where we're situated, right in between Congo and Angola. So it's not just, we don't just serve the people of Zambia, but also we get a lot of traffic coming through, as it were, from the Congo and Angola as well. So we cover up a few nations where we happen to be. Someone's actually described, how do you describe where we are in Zambia? Well, if it's almost like an arm and a fist with a thumb sticking up. So that's an easy way to remember it. Okay, next slide please. This isn't Sachibondu, just before anyone else. This is Kalani Hospital. So Becks' great-great-grandfather in the late 1800s moved out there. He was a surgeon. He was a peer of David Livingstone. And he actually started Kalani Hospital. As you see, it's still working as a hospital today, and it's a nurses' training centre as well. So it's still working well. This is just 2 hours away from us in the car. It's not an easy 2 hours, but it's 2 hours away. We'll show you pictures of the road later. But so this is a hospital we are connected with to some degree, and there's still many of Becks' family and have been working out there for many generations now.
This is where all of our referral patients will go if they have emergencies. So it's a 2-hour bumpy ride for women in labour and people having terrible conditions. Yeah, this is where they would go. One of the places they would go.
Yeah. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so this is Sachibondu. This is our hospital. It was a health clinic, but now it's developed into the white building there is actually the hospital. Okay. The mission hospital, yeah. So this and the green building you can see just behind is the maternity wing. So Sachibondu was actually started, as you can see, in 1961 by Becks' grandfather, and since then there's been a work going on there since then. So the name of Sachibondu actually comes from the river that passes by there, so that's where the name comes up. It's actually quite a large area. It's over 1,600 hectares large. So the actual ground of Sachibondu is quite large. A lot of it's still bush, but it does belong to Sachibondu Christian Development. So, next slide. So we just wanted to show you some slides of what the terrain's like, what the weather's like, and just to give you an idea of what sort of environment we live in and work in. These are the roads. As we said, they're not great, and there are many problems. You see That's not an unusual picture to see a truck getting stuck in the roads there. Mud roads. The nearest bit of tarmac to us is about 40 minutes away from us. So all our local driving is on mud roads, and obviously every year need to be repaired with the potholes and the rain. So the weather out there, we normally have about 6 months of heavy rain. That's our rainy season. So every day we will get heavy rain. A lot of thunder and lightning comes with that as well, which causes its own problems. And if we go to the next slide, it is quite a remote place that we live. So the nearest town to us is 40 minutes away, and this is our local market in a town called Munilunga. And so this is our local market where we can buy fruits and veg and things. As you see, it's not very extensive, so we can get basic hardware, can get basic fruits and veg and a few other things at this local town. But if we want anything more of substance like a supermarket, we have to travel 6 hours. So it's quite a long journey. So that'd be things like get local to buy gas for our cooking, other things that we might want to buy from the supermarket. So we have to plan really well. If we get something from the shops, we're in trouble. So we have to plan out really well. And Becks normally does that drive, and we have a truck, and it's normally filled up to the brim with everything that everyone in the community needs. So that's something. Okay, next slide, please. This is our controlled bushfires. Now, what we have, like I said, we have 6 months of the year into the rainy season. The other 6 months of the year is obviously dry season. And the dry season is made up of 3 months of a coldish season, and 3 months of a hot season. And towards about 3-4 months into that dry season, we actually do a controlled burn. This is actually done for a purpose, and you can see some of the slides there, just show you the pictures. The reason we do that is so that, a number of reasons, so that it doesn't, we don't have out of control fires, like obviously they had very recently in Australia, where things got way out of control. So this is what they do in Zambia. They do controlled fires as best as they can. They mark a ground out and try and burn that through. And it's actually, believe it or not, quite good for the environment, very healthy for the environment. After the burn, we get flowers growing up that would only grow after a fire. So we get different types of species of plants and flowers, and obviously then the wildlife with that as well. So it's actually, we've got quite a few people that are very interested in flowers in our team, who get very excited at this stage of the year and go out and looking for all types of new species and types of orchids and all sorts of things. So the burns are actually, every year we make quite an event of it, and everyone has a good time. But it's quite a sight to see. As you can imagine, the flames do get quite big, but the trees survive and they do well out of it. So it's a good thing to do. Okay. This just shows you a little bit of what our everyday life is like. This one. So the picture on the left-hand side is a Rhodesian boiler. Some of you may have heard of that. Now, what we do to get hot water, so I have a nice hot shower, we will put firewood in the space underneath, light it, and then obviously heats the water and pipes through. So every week I go out and collect firewood, and there's a picture of me just unloading the firewood there. And so it's just that's just an ordinary lifestyle that we now enter into. So we collect up dead trees and things and burn them for our hot water. So that's it's just a bit different to, rather than just turning on the gas. The central heating we don't have, so we make the best of what we can. And actually, it's not too bad. You can survive with that quite nicely. Okay, next slide, please.
Please ignore the picture of me. It's the only photo I could find of the dam looking relatively normal. This is our dam, our hydroelectricity supply. We have a river that runs below Sachibondu, and a number of years ago my grandfather dammed it, so that's our source of electricity. The photo on the right, you can see it overflowing. That's when we have too much rain, that's what happens. We desperately need a whole new system. The dam is over 35 years old and it's showing signs of end of life. So we're going to start raising money to provide a new dam and turbine. And then if you just click the next slide, please. These solar panels were installed, what were they about? 2 years ago, purely for the hospital only, to help our power supply because the whole site was just struggling, and obviously the clinic turning into a hospital, there wasn't enough electricity. So these are our new solar panels. Sadly, 6 of them were stolen a few months ago, and I think they made their way over the Congolese border before we could get them back, so that was very sad. And then literally about 2 weeks before we left to come here to the UK, we had a big storm and a direct lightning hit that knocked out the battery for the solar. So that's left us with a £5,000 bill, which thankfully we've got that covered already, which is amazing. But it just shows the kind of unsustainability of being able to just use solar power, because if we had another storm with another hit, that's another big bill. So this kind of works for us in the dry season, but in the rainy season we need another alternative. So the other thing we're looking at now is funding for generators across the site, just as backups, because as we move to our hospital, we've got people on the operating table, we can't have power cuts and things like that. Yeah, so generator, yes. Okay, next slide, please.
Right, so this is a picture of, or some pictures of the house that we're currently building now for ourselves at Sach. So in the top left shows the anthill that was there previously. It was a disused anthill, the ants have moved out. So it took quite a long time to move the anthill with just spades and shovels. So by hand we had to dig that out. As you see, we even got the whole family involved in that, and particularly Grace and Isaac did a great job digging away at that. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, that just shows the foundation, the levels, we had it all leveled off. And the bottom picture is where the house was just before we left. So we managed to get the walls up. And the picture on the bottom right is our storehouse. Now that actually used to be a piggery, so we managed to change it. The foundation's still the same, the pigs have moved out as well, obviously. And so that's our storehouse that we managed to build just next to it as well. So it's quite an exciting project. Before when I was living in the UK, I have to say, I didn't have many DIY skills, did I, Dan? No. So I've had to learn a lot. It's been a sharp learning curve, been a lot of fun, but now I'm ended up building a house, which is something I never dreamed that I would do. But we've all been involved in it and getting lots of advice from people that have built houses before, obviously. So yeah, but it's not just a house for us, there is more of a vision to that, so I'll let you share that.
Yeah, so when God called us to Zambia, there was this house, it was the available accommodation for us. It was actually built by my grandfather over 60 years ago. It's made with mud bricks, they weren't even burnt bricks, just mud bricks, and it's quite amazing that it's still standing, to be honest. It's very special for us to move in there, actually. I don't think my grandfather would have ever dreamed that his great-grandchildren would be moving in there 60 years later. But it's really at the end of its life now. This photo was it last year? The veranda roof just fell down without any warning. I had a girls group on the veranda that day. We were doing some teaching and it started to rain, so I said, quick, let's get inside. And literally about 8 minutes after we walked through that door, it came crashing down. So we're grateful that we managed to move out of the way. But we've got all the walls, all the floors have cracks in them. In fact, I put my foot through the floor in our bedroom just as we were packing our suitcases to come here. So yeah, the house is really at the end now. And we obviously need to find somewhere to stay while we're there. Our vision for our new home is definitely to host, and At the moment, whenever our team meets, which is quite regularly, it's usually at our place. One, because we're central, but two, because we've probably got the most room at the moment, and our team is growing. So you probably saw the size of that foundation of the new build. It's quite large. It is just a one-storey house, so it's spread out, but we're deliberately building it big so that we can host people, and we often get people visiting from overseas, teams of nurses, families, people from church, and we want to be able to host people in our home and look after them. So that's one of the reasons why we're building, and the way we're building and everything we're doing, we've got that heart of hosting, yeah. So next slide, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so obviously in terms of local schools, there is a local school, but it's not really up to the standard that any of us would expect our children to go to. I'll say that mildly. And so we homeschool the children. So Beck started off homeschooling them, and then as her role changed, and we'll talk about more on that in a few slides' time, so I took on the homeschooling for the children. And so we do that, but it's not only Grace and Isaac homeschool as well. There's also, you'll see a picture of Joy there as well. That's another couple's, a Zambian couple's daughter who have come to be missionaries there as well. And so we homeschool her as well. And as you see, there's a picture of a couple of other children. That's another family, the Lloyd Bottoms. They're actually joining us in the new year, and they're moving out there as well. So that's when they came out recently to join us. So there's a group of children all homeschooling together out there, and there was actually a vision for there being a homeschooling hub at Sachibondu. So that seems to be coming to pass quite rapidly, really. It seems that we're expanding quickly, but it's great. The kids are doing well, and obviously that does take a bit of our time as we're doing it, but we're all enjoying it working together. Now, before I went out to Zambia, I had done really no teaching at all. And as many of you may know, my family has a lot of teachers in. My mum, my sister, uncles and aunties, cousins. And so all these years I said, I will never be a teacher. Now, as you saw from the homeschooling, I'm already doing a bit of that. And it's not just the children I've ended up teaching as well. So this was during COVID, all the universities and all the schools shut down in Zambia. And so we had two young men that have gone off to Lusaka, the capital, to train to be doctors. And obviously they were sent home in that time, but they had still their exams to do, and then how are we going to learn? So I ended up doing a few teaching sessions with them as well, and helping them learn the anatomy and physiology and things as they went along. So I ended up teaching them as well. And not only that, I also there was some grade 12 students. Now that's equivalent of doing GCSE age levels. They had exams to do as well. The schools were still shut, so I started helping them as well. So I was teaching a complete age range of people for someone who's never done any teaching before. So if you go to the next slide. And not only that, I was also helping teach doing some training for the hospital staff as well. As you see in the top left-hand corner, I was doing some cardiology teaching then. I think respiratory training in the bottom left-hand corner, and in the top right-hand corner, I was as a dummy on that day. I died, and they had to resuscitate me. So we've had a lot of fun, but the one thing about Sachibondu is whatever skills that anyone has, they can be used, they can be utilised and be a benefit and blessing to the people in the area, no matter what the age range, whether it's a young child or whether it's a highly trained professional, we can still be a blessing to them. And that's what we're trying to do in whatever need arises. So, and that's how I found myself doing things that I've never done before, like building a house, like doing all this teaching. But that's just what we've ended up doing because there's a need for it and we can meet that need. So, yeah.
Just wanted to share a tiny bit about the current school at Sachibondu. This is the primary school. And some of the ways that we've tried to support them. There is a vision to build our own private school at Sachibondu. We've got as far as clearing the land, but the government, we've already spoken to the government and they're really, really happy for us to do this, and they've already said to us that when we're ready we can take those children, all the local children from that school, and put them in the new school. The vision is to give them an excellent education for free. Like Jon said, the school there at the minute, the teaching level is not great, and we know how much education gives opportunities, and there's so many kids living at Sach that are so bright, and we just see so much potential in them, and we want them to reach their potential. So when we had a look at what they actually have in the school, I discovered there was hardly any books. There was hardly any teacher books, there was hardly any student books. So through Career Action, I asked for their support in funding, and they sent some money, and we managed to buy all these student books as a first phase, which provides one book between 3 students. So it's still not great, but it's a start. So we're going to continue with that into the new year, see if we can get some more books for them. The other thing that some of our Zambian friends at Sach have a burning desire for is a library. So one of the things we're also going to start looking at in the new year is to provide them with a library, because as I said, the books, there's just no resources. And when Isaac's and Grace's friends come to our house, they see our bookshelf, and we have all sorts of kids' encyclopedias and science books and space books, and they're just amazed because they've just never seen anything like it. And so our heart's desire is to provide more books for these kids. And we've got some trusted friends working in the school that will facilitate that for us and make sure that the books stay safe and all those sorts of things. So, yeah, next slide please. Another project we've done a few times over the years is providing sanitary wear for girls, teenage girls. These girls from the villages, they just use cuts of rags and often are caught off guard. So to be able to have either disposable sanitary wear or reusable is just an absolute gift to them. So earlier on this year we had a group of ladies in the UK that made these ones on the bottom left picture, and we handed them out to the school, and as you can see their jubilation, they were absolutely thrilled because this will see them through. They were given a few each, and that's all they need really. So I've asked these same ladies, they want to get sewing again. That's a great project to do because it just means so much to these young girls. Discipleship. So one of the things we've really learned since being in Zambia is and working with the church is there's a real gap and a need for discipleship and mentoring. We've been in many church services where there's an altar call and people will come and make a commitment to Jesus, but then we see a gap, and those same youth, or even if they're adults, but they're not followed up with, and they're not mentored and discipled. So we've really made it our desire, vision to follow through with these kids. The middle picture there is me in a village. We go out to villages as well. It's not just at Sachibondu, but all sorts of ages of youth, especially with our kids' age right up. We're building relationship. Jon does some stuff which he's going to talk about in a minute, some structured stuff, but also we just make it our business to just live life and invite them over for meals and just be like a mum and dad really to so many of the youth of Sach. I was involved in a girls group. I've had to put that down for a season because I'm just too busy with the hospital. But Jon's been working with a boys group. Next slide, please. Yeah, oh no, that's the one after. Yeah, this is our girls group. We had some retreats and we did Christmas parties and all sorts of things, and it's just a lifeline to them because also the family unit is very different in Africa, and we don't see much mothering and fathering going on. Like once the baby's big enough to walk, they kind of just fend for themselves and they're looked after by their older siblings. So in the villages anyway. So there's just such a need for mothers and fathers, and so we try to be that where we can. Yeah, so the next slide. Yeah.
I love these pictures because these are some of the young men that we've built a relationship with. And on the left is Josiah, and on the right is Samuel. And the story behind these pictures are really quite something. Both these young men have come out of a lifestyle that wasn't great. They got mixed up with friends that weren't helpful to them, and yet they decided to turn their lives around. So this is the picture of their baptisms, and as you see, the smile on their faces. It's a real time of celebration in their lives, and so it's just a real great opportunity. It's a real blessing to be able to demonstrate that with them as a public demonstration that their lives have changed. So that's the great pictures. If you go to the next slide, this is the boys group. Now these young men, aged between anywhere 16, 17 up to about 21, 22, that sort of age range. And so as Beck said, one of the biggest needs that we find is that these young men and women, but these group of young men don't have much in the way of mothering and fathering. And so I mean, for instance, Josiah, who was baptised, he's right in the middle of that group there. He was, we try and help them in a really holistic way. So, yes, we help them with practical things, for instance, helping him revise for his exams. We also help them with work so they can earn money, because they have to pay for their school fees, their school uniform. They need money from somewhere, so we give them small bits of work to do, so we're working with that. And also, on a spiritual side of things as well, we help them on that. So we're trying to look at all aspects of their lives. And Josiah, have we got talking later on? No. So Josiah, I'll just say a little bit about Josiah. This is a great story. So in the boys group, we meet with them every Wednesday afternoon, and we sit with them and we chat about whatever's going on in their life, and we talk about what the Bible says. We ask them what's God saying to you, and we talk about things like that. And he hadn't seen his dad for 6 years, which shows you the disconnect between parents. And he said, he asked us as a boys group, can you pray for my dad? Can you just pray for him? So he said, okay, well, let's pray. A month later, after we prayed, Josiah got a message from the village saying, Josiah, because up to that point, for the last 6 years, his dad was an alcoholic, had given up work, had stopped going to church. And obviously his relationship with Josiah had not gone well at that point. He then got a message, and they said, your dad stopped drinking and he's coming back to church. So he said, okay. So he went to meet his dad, and he said, Dad, we've been praying for you in boys group. And his dad responded and said, I knew someone had been praying for me, because otherwise how can my life be turned around? So when you hear stories like that of a father and son relationship being restored, that's a big thing, really. So it's just working with these young men really is quite meaningful, and we've been doing that for a few years now. And so on that side of things we do, and also every Friday night, these young men, we meet at 10 o'clock at night, and we pray until 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And they get excited about it, because it's nighttime prayer, and they're like, yes, let's go and pray. And it's not usual to get young men like that age wanting to go and pray on a Friday night. We do pick that time specifically. One of the things, obviously, if they're not there praying, then they're going to be with their friends out doing other things. So actually, it's really helpful for them, and they enjoy it as well. And we've seen some great things happen in those times. They've really experienced the power of God move in that time as well, which has been really exciting. So, that's a really exciting thing to do. So, and it's not just those 2-time meetings in the week we meet with them, as we've already said. We meet with them one-to-one, just in our daily lifestyle, just sharing life with them. And that's quite a powerful thing for them. Local church, yeah. I do get quite a few opportunities to speak on a Sunday morning at our local church, which is great. And both Becks and myself spoken at conferences, both at Sachibondu and elsewhere around the country as well. So it's great to have those sort of opportunities to share with people and do some teaching and see the power of God move as well. It does have its challenges in the local church. One of the biggest challenges is that witchcraft is very much infiltrated into the community. So that is a big challenge to work with. And so that is very much infiltrated into the culture. So that's a challenge that we work with. And yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, so we wanted to just give you an idea of some of the ways that we personally support people and individuals in Sachibondu on a monthly basis and as a one-off. So the next slide is a young lady called Annie Kupiwa Kasongu. I met Annie at a retreat, a conference a couple of years ago, and you know when you have those moments where you just feel instantly connected to someone, and I knew that God had brought her into my life for a reason. So we just stayed in loose contact on Facebook, and about 6 months later she contacted me. She was a qualified nurse, and the way the system is in Zambia, once they qualify as a nurse or a teacher or whatever trade it is, they then apply to the government to be put on the payroll anywhere in the country, and then they wait. And it's not unusual to wait for 10 years. So we've got quite a few friends I can think of that waited a number of years. One of them 10 years as a teacher, another one's just finally got on the payroll. He's been waiting 6 years as a teacher. So Annie had been waiting almost a year, I think, and she said, I'm bored, I'm desperate to do something, can I come and volunteer at Sach? So we literally jumped and said, yes, please. So she's been working with us for nearly 2 years now, and I mean, just that alone, the fact that she's working her guts out in a very rural place, it's not as easy as it is in the city, and for her to choose that and not even be getting paid for it is unbelievably amazing. So Jon and I support her financially every month. It's not much, but it gets her through. We pay for her groceries and anything else that comes up. And obviously, I'm sure some of you know, like in the African culture, anyone who's earning money, especially if they're on like a skilled government payroll or something, will be expected to send a huge portion of what they earn back to their families. So even the little that she gets, she's then sending that, back to her parents. Her mum's blind, her dad's got back problems. She's got 6 siblings, none of them are working, they've all got children. So she's under a lot of pressure, but she's really bright. She's got such an amazing relationship with Jesus, and she's got such a heart for people. Her heart's desire is to go back to school to train for theatre, as a theatre nurse or a surgeon. So that's something we're really looking towards supporting her in somehow. Yeah, so that's Annie, and on the right you can see we baptised her this year, which was really special. This is Mary and Sylvester Mwamba. Jon mentioned their daughter earlier, this Joy. She's Grace's best friend and lifeline at Sach. They joined us not long after we arrived there, actually, and even though they're Zambians, they technically came to Sachibondu as missionaries themselves. So they're living by faith, they're not earning. Sylvester occasionally gets a bit of piecework. Mary's just recently started helping out in the local preschool. You can see her there with her flock. So we support them also every month, just a little bit. And they do get a little bit of help as well from other members of our team. But they are an amazing asset to Sachibondu and huge part of the future of Sach. Yeah. We have a few people that we employ. This is Bridget with a bucket on her head, and then the other lady is Emily. Bridget's the mother of 4. When we met her, she was single, very young. She dropped out of school in grade 7 with her first child. So we've been able to employ her in our home, and it gives her living really, and she's able to support her family. Emily is a very special lady. She looks very young. She looks about 15, but she's actually in her 40s. She is very much an intercessor, and I met her, how many years ago? 2007, in England. She'd come to England as part of an intercessors team, prayer team with my auntie, and it's a very long story, but I happened to be in the place they were at. At the time I wasn't walking with God, and long story short, she came to me and said she wanted to pray with me, and she led me back to Jesus, and my whole life changed. And I never thought I'd ever see her again, and we parted ways. And at the beginning of this year, she contacted my auntie and said, I'm desperate for work. I've got kids to support, I need help. Is there any work at Sach? So I just threw my arms in the air and said, please, I don't care what she does, or we will just have her. So she's been working with us for the last 9 months, and she's an incredible asset to our team as well, isn't she? Yeah, so next slide, please. This is Salilo and Alice. Salilo is our physiotherapist at the hospital. They're also a member of our team, and we've been supporting Salilo through higher education. He's been doing some online courses alongside working full-time, because we believe that God is getting him prepared to help me, hopefully, in my role in managing the hospital. I've actually left him in charge while we're here. But they're an incredible couple, and so we've been sewing into them in many different ways. Okay, this is Sarah. I can't remember if we've talked to you about Sarah before. I don't know the medical... Cerebral palsy. Yeah, she's got very severe cerebral palsy. My mum found her in a hospital when she was 1 year old. Her mother died giving birth to her, and my mum wanted to find, she'd basically been left there was no family wanted her, so they'd just been keeping her in the hospital. So again, long story short, my mum found a couple to take care of her, an American missionary couple I think it was. They had her for 10 years. And then I think the husband died, and the mother wanted to go back to America, and she didn't want to take Sarah with her. So she basically gave her back. So my grandmother decided to take her on, and basically she's been part of our family ever since. So my gran has been looking after her until she died in 2007. And then my auntie took her on. So she's been living at Sachibondu for a number of years now with my auntie. And so Sarah's my age, she'll be 40 next year. She's very precious to us, and we pray for her daily. We really believe that God's going to heal her. As of the new year, it's highly likely that Sarah will be coming to live with us in our home, because my auntie's moving on for a season, and so we've offered to take her on. So that's really exciting. We will take someone else in to help us with that, because obviously we're both quite busy. So just with her daily care, but yeah, we'll be looking after her as well. Okay, cows. So we know many of you have really helped us out in the past with the cows at Sachibondu, and for that we're so grateful. The herd has increased. We've had, my daughter probably keeps tabs on it more than I do, but we've just had a few new calves in the last year, right? We had a little boy just off, we left, didn't we, Grace? There's the two new babies on the top right. They don't really bring us a profit, but they are really there to bless the community. So they provide milk for the school, the preschool students every morning, and all the patients in the hospital get milk in their porridge and a cup of milk every morning with their breakfast, which is amazing, because they certainly wouldn't get that at home. And a lot of these children, they walk for an hour to get to school on an empty tummy, so to come into school and have milk and a piece of fruit or something is a real blessing. So in the new year, John and I will probably be taking on the cows too. So we never thought we'd be cow herders, but there we are. We're looking forward to the challenge. But no, they're just so beautiful, and we just feel privileged to have them at Sachibondu. And we'll continue looking after them, hopefully, as well as my auntie did. Yes, yeah. I think your church paid for one of them, but I think you've also given a gift since then for that as well, for the maintenance and stuff. So thank you so much. I just thought it'd be good to put in some pictures of the updated cows. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, so January this year, some of you will probably know, this is my auntie, Ira Patching. She was administrating the hospital. She decided to go into politics, which is a bit of a surprise, but she really felt God led her into politics to stand as MP for our district, which was really exciting. We really feel that, if we want to have a kingdom government, then you need kingdom people in government. So she stepped down from his administration to pursue that. And also, it wasn't planned to be so quickly in January, but we had quite a lot of issues at the beginning of the year with the previous government. We had the elections in August. The previous government, which are now out, there was some issues around her knowing that she was running Sachibondu and it being a Christian place. They just made it really hard for her, and they said, oh, if you're going to be doing this, then we're going to shut Sachibondu down, and we're going to take the permits away from the missionaries, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And so she decided to leave Sachibondu just to safeguard what we have there in the hospital and people like us. So it was all a bit of a rush, and I was thrusted into becoming administrator very early in January, which I think is the next slide, isn't it? And so it was a deep learning curve for me. I did start the year before. I had a whole year of being her assistant, but there was still much more to learn, so I'm still learning, and it's a big job. This year has been a real year of transition for us. As you know, we're technically at the moment a rural health centre. An amazing organisation called Orchid Studio came in and built us a whole new hospital building, and then left it there, so it's a shell. There was nothing in it, there was no equipment or anything like that, but that was the start. And Mrs. Patching left that vision to become a hospital. So this last year we've been very much focusing on trying to move forward with that vision. We are currently dealing with trying to renovate some of the building, because although they did quite a good job building, some of it wasn't really fit for purpose. So for example, the theatre, there was a lot of sort of structural things that weren't right and things to make things function properly. So we're now in the middle of trying to renovate and get all of those things right before we start trying to fill the theatre. But obviously having a theatre is one of the #1 things that we need to become a mini hospital. So that's something that we've been doing. Okay, yeah, so I've just got a few pictures of staff. You can go to the next one. Okay, this is Salila, he's a physio, doing physiotherapy. The middle slide is our OPD at the moment, outpatients. And the slide on the right is dispensary, where they dispense drugs. We hold nutrition classes every Monday. So we have malnourished children and youth coming, and their parents are taught how to cook and how, what good foods to feed their children, and then we supply them with a meal, and then we send them home with food for the next week, or if they come from far, we supply them for further than that. We also provide formula milk for those that need it, so you can see the lady there. We obviously have some tragedies where mothers die in childbirth and the grandmothers are left with children and they have no way to feed their babies. So we supply with formula milk as well. Okay. This is Miriam, she's our laundry girl actually. I think she was just standing in for the cook that day. She's cooking the beans on the fire. And then in the bottom right, that's all some of our maternity ladies ready for that trip I was telling you about, 2-hour journey to go and have their babies at Kalani Mission. Yeah, next slide please. Okay, COVID at Sachibondu. So, again, just such a huge thank you to this whole body of people for all of your input and support. As COVID-19 hit the world, you guys drove into action straight away, and have really supported us, and we're so grateful for that, especially at the beginning when we didn't know how it was going to pan out. All we knew is that we were just not equipped at all to deal with COVID. Thankfully, I'm pleased to say that it has not hit Zambia the way it has hit the West, and that is the mercy of God, because even though we've got a lot more in place now, and we have our oxygen and various things, we're still really not set up to deal with really sick COVID patients. So this is what the government sends me on WhatsApp every day. So I think this was 5th of December, that's yesterday. And you can see confirmed cases yesterday was 18 in the whole country. So obviously our testing is not up to scratch as it would be here. So it's not a very accurate picture, but we're not seeing COVID the way you've been seeing COVID, and for that we're really, really grateful, aren't we? Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, however, we did everything we could to protect our staff and protect our communities. These pictures, some of them are our mobile clinics that we do every week, where we go out far into the villages to provide people with medicine and medical care when they can't reach us. So we kitted out our staff with all the PPE to keep them safe. It's very hot, very hot. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this picture on the left, that's us receiving some drugs, COVID related as well, and some of that we bought with some of the money you sent. So I put that there to say thank you so much. It's just been so amazing to have your support. Yeah, top picture, we've got people testing us, and then again that's the mobile clinic there where we're doing antenatal and mothers and children. Next slide. Yeah, again, some of these pictures are where we've received support for COVID, and then some of them are, I know some of you know about Satch 100 and you've supported towards that. That was fundraising going on, trying to raise money to fit out the hospital with equipment, as well as the maternity Amazon wish list that I think some of you know about as well. A friend of mine was doing that, and she sent over 2 big shipments in the last year and a bit. The picture on the right is our most recent shipment that we received. She actually sent it in February. We didn't actually receive it till, I think it was October, which was really hard. There was some miscommunication there, namely because the missionary at the place that all the stuff gets sent to has got really sick and he's been in the UK, so he didn't communicate that the stuff was there. But anyway, we've got it now, and it was such a joy, and all our staff were so thrilled to unpack all the amazing things that that we can use in the hospital. Even just things like urine sticks. You know, when you have a urine infection, you just dip a stick, and it's such a simple thing, but there's bigger, more established hospitals nearby us that don't even have urine sticks because resources are so low for us. So for us to be able to receive small things like that, it's just been amazing and so beneficial for the community. So thank you so much. My job as administrator really has been more like 4 jobs. I've kind of been doing the accounts, HR, administration, secretary, literally everything. And it's just been a bit too much, really. So it's had an impact on us as a family, and it's had an impact on my health. And so we're really praying for solutions for this coming year, because we decided that we don't want to do another year like that. So we're really praying for God to supply us with the right people, whether they come from Zambia or whether they come from overseas. I don't mind. Obviously, I mentioned about Salilo. He's right there. We really feel that he's fit for some of this management role, and so we're really praying for that and trying to work out how to do that, because we'd probably have to support him financially, because he's being paid by the government to be a physiotherapist, and at the moment we're too small for the government to pay him to be an administrator or to do any part of my role. So, but yeah, we would really appreciate your prayers around that, because we just need help, like human help, physical help. Yeah. So yeah, but prayer in all areas. And for COVID, obviously we all know about the latest variant that's hit the world, and we do not fear whatsoever, but but we're just so grateful that we've kind of been shielded at Sachibondu and in Zambia, and we just pray that that continues for everybody in the nation, really. So we'd appreciate your prayers for that. I've written visit us. We say that to people all the time and they sort of laugh, but we actually mean it. It's a long way to go, and we're very rural, and a lot of people say we're mad for doing what we do. But we do always want people to know that they're so welcome to visit us. And I know there's some people here that have talked about coming out to see us, and we just want you to know that you're really welcome. Whether you're just coming to have a rest and a holiday and just spend some time with God, or whether you come to share your skills, whatever they are. We've had people coming, I'm sure some of you know that Mum and Dad came out to visit us a couple of years ago, and Mum did some teacher training at the school, which was amazing. Our teachers thought it was the best thing ever. They found it so much more interesting than any of their teacher training they'd had leading up to their qualification. So it was brilliant, but we just value people's input in whatever shape or form it is. We've had people coming out to do electrics, construction. We've got a young lad interested in coming over in the summer holidays to do football school for our youth. So yeah, we're just really open to people visiting us. We've been blessed so much financially by this church already, but obviously there's need in all areas as such. I think that's the thing, there's so many projects and things to give to, but we do value every penny that people give. And then fundraising, obviously, spreading the word. We're amazed at how many people in Swindon know about us, and we haven't said anything to anyone really, apart from this group of people and apart from like our family that have shared with family and friends. It amazes me how God spreads the word, and so we're just grateful for all the people you share with about us, because I think the more people know about Sachibondu and the people there and what God's doing, the more help will come that way to that community that we care so much about. Yeah. Is there anything else I've missed? If there's any questions, sorry, I don't even know what the time is, so I don't know how long we've been talking. If anyone's got any questions, please put your hand up. We'd love to answer any questions. Or anything we haven't talked about that you hoped we might, or anything.
So you talked a bit about kind of team meetings, and can you tell us a bit more about the team that you...
Okay, so when we first arrived at Sachibondu, it was really us whites, I guess, the missionaries there. But in 4 years, our team is now nearly 20 of us, and the majority of us are Zambians. We've really bridged that gap, and I love it that we're all just so close. We're like family. So we meet, obviously we meet on a Sunday at church, but we meet outside of church in our home on Sunday evening, Wednesday evening, and then sometimes Friday evenings before the boys then have their late meeting. And yeah, sometimes we meet to worship together, sometimes we meet for prayer, praying for the nation, sometimes we just spend time asking God what He wants to do, and we just allow the Holy Spirit, really. What we've learned about Sachibondu is it's a place where people come for healing and for restoration. And when anyone visits us and they join us for a team meeting, we always give them an opportunity to share about themselves, and then the team will pray for them and just to bless them and encourage them. And people always come away from Sachibondu feeling like they've been to a spa week, you know. So we're so grateful to God for that. And one of the things I didn't mention was we have a retreat site at Sachibondu that used to run function all the time, and then when people moved away and it all died down a bit, it all went back to bush. So since we've been back, we're slowly restoring the retreat site, and we have a vision for that to be a place where people can come. We've named it Peniel, it's face to face with God. We feel that would be a place where even government officials, VIPs, national leaders will come and just have a time of peace and restoration in a way with God. But it's also for families, for churches, for youth groups, locally, in the country and from overseas to come and just have time away with God. So we pray into that as well as a team. We kind of share everything at Sach as a team. I don't know what we do without our team really. We miss them very much when we're not there. But we all are so interconnected with all the projects and things that we do at Sachibondu, and so we're all a great support to one another. So that when we meet, sometimes it's to just worship God, and sometimes it's to strategize about the next week. And
where do you see that singing?
so Abigail and Simon. So they're actually related. I do have a big family. She's my cousin. She was actually born in Africa. She's grown up in the UK. She and her husband co-run a church in Wolverhampton at the moment. And so she does a lot of speaking and preaching. And I think, both of them, but Abby especially, will be doing a lot of that. She'll be involved with the church and going out to all the other churches in the nation, not just in the local area. She also is homeschooling her kids, so I don't know how that's all going to pan out. But Simon at the moment is an accountant. He really feels he's in the middle of doing all sorts of business things, which he feels that God wants him to continue with. So he will be coming backwards and forwards to Zambia, between Zambia and UK. But he is got a real heart for the Bible school at Sachibondu, and for the youth and the church. So again, there's various places where they'll slot in, but I'm also hoping he'll help me with accounts. Well, I can't ask him that yet because he hasn't come yet. But yes, we already know how much they're going to be an asset to the team at Sachibondu, and they've got 3 kids. 2 of them the same age as ours, so we know that's going to be a blessing to our children as well. Yes.
Yeah, and for them, when most people come to Sachibondu, it's unusual that they know exactly where to slot in because there's so much to do. So most people take a little bit of time to find their feet, and obviously it's not just a job change, it's a complete lifestyle change, obviously a culture change. The basics of life are completely different. So they'll probably take a little bit of time to settle in, but knowing their hearts already, I know that they'll be wanting to get going as soon as possible. So yeah.
The other thing as well is that Simon is very techie, so I'm really praying he's going to be able to help me with that side of things. I know some of you, Graham so kindly puts our updates on your website. I'd like to do more of that and more video updates and stuff. It's a bit more lively than reading a very long letter. So I'm hoping that Simon will be able to help me with all of that because I'm not great with tech. So that's another avenue and he's already really keen to look at the whole funding projects and how that looks like, and fundraising and charitable stuff and all that. Yeah.
Where will they live?
Yeah, so my auntie's house, when they told us that they felt God was calling them to Sachibondu, she prayed about it and she felt God tell her to give them her house. So she's that kind of woman, she's very radical, so she's giving them her house. She had built a small round, rondel with a grass roof, round house, as a guest house next door to her house. So she and her husband are moving in there, and they're giving the new family the great big house. Yeah. So they don't have accommodation issues like we did when we arrived, which is a blessing.
Which, going back to, it's great you brought up the thing of accommodation, because as Bex has already said, one of the reasons we're building our house as big and with as many bedrooms as it has is so people can stay with us when they visit, because obviously there's no travel lodge down the road, so there's no hotels, and so that's one of the reasons we want to be able to welcome people and have that space to have people come and stay with us. That's a really big vision of ours to do, yeah.
Yeah, I think the accommodation as a whole at Sachibondu is a big issue at the minute, and that's another angle that I deal with in my role, is the renovation and then the rebuilding of structures as such. So we have a huge staff housing issue for the hospital. We don't have enough buildings to accommodate the staff that we have already, never mind the ones that will be coming very soon when we actually have theatre running and x-ray and all those things as well. And then the existing buildings that have been there for a very long time are all very dilapidated, so we're constantly trying to fix up buildings that are already there, as well as new projects starting over. And it's, the government is supposed to help, especially with the hospital staff housing, but it's difficult. That they don't offer much help. They're supposed to give us a small running cost every month for the clinic. And for example, this year, 2021, we've had 2 months running costs out of 12. So that's what we're dealing with. But to be honest, that's not really a complaint, because it just shows how good God is. Because when I look at our accounts, I don't know how we survive, but every month we get by, and we're blessed, and what we are able to supply for our community is so much more than other areas. So yeah, it's just the grace of God, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can we just say thank you to you both for such a fascinating insight into your lives, into what you're doing there, but into the life of Zambia and Sachibondu as well. So thank you very much for coming this evening. We hope you've had a good evening here, but a good break. You're in Britain, you're going back home?
On the 4th of January.
4th of January, so you've got with our prayers, with our blessing, and with God's blessing. Shall we pray? Loving God, we thank you for Jon and for Becks, for the difference that they're making to so many lives in Sachibondu. Thank you for their team, the way in which Zambians are being able to move into leadership positions. Pray for Silolu and his budding leadership skills. Pray for Becks and her challenges with the hospital and the clinic and all the different roles, and that she'll find the help that she needs. Pray for Jon and homeschooling and different kinds of education and building the house and looking after cows and all the other things that he does that we probably haven't heard of this evening. And then we pray above all for the people of Sachibondu, for patients in the hospital, for the church, that you'll continue to bless them all. And in all that we've heard this evening, pray that you'll lead those of us here too, in whatever ways we can help, whether that's with money or, as Beck said, mobile phones, laptops, things that we just take for granted and perhaps after a while discard, and yet can make so much difference to other people. And so we ask for your prompting, your guiding for us all too. We pray that the financial gifts we're able to make will make a huge difference in that place. And so we ask your blessing on Jon and Becks and on everyone else at Sachibondu, as we thank you for them. And we ask this prayer in Jesus' name.